Hi guys, welcome to today's impromptu video, and it's about the Andor trailer reaction. I've already seen this, so this is not going to be a first watch, first reaction sort of video. And Liam is also currently out of town, so what I'm going to do first is going to drop his reaction right here. You can also watch it on YouTube Shorts, but I'm just going to include it as part of this video as well. And here we go.
Hello there, everybody. Quick initial reaction to the Andor trailer. It's awesome. The vibe looks amazing. The war feel, like the undercover spy feel, it has a very science fiction-y vibe to it, like more traditional sci-fi, more like revolutionary style sci-fi stories that are meant to have, real world connotations. This has that. It has that like seedy revolt storyline that's been in so many things all the way back to like THX 1138 George Lucas did. I love that. I'm getting so many of those vibes here. I cannot wait for the show. I think everything looks great. Stellan Skarsgård, Diego Luna, Genevieve O'Reilly, all of that. I cannot wait for more Senate stuff with her. I think that's going to be one of the most compelling parts of this whole thing. Really excited for this whole thing. And Saw Gerrera reveal, that was awesome. Clone Troopers, Death Troopers, everything. It looks so good. I cannot wait for August 31st. Check out our reaction later today.
Okay, now moving on to the trailer. Let me pull it up right here. First shot, you know, everything is shot practical. Like they said, they didn't even use any what is it called, LED volume, which I think is a nice change of pace. I know that a lot of people have been actively saying now, like, oh man, like yeah, of course the LED volumes like the new CGI green screen. I don't think so. I think again, people are really downplaying just how devastating COVID is for a lot of things, especially entertainment. I know people are always bringing up Stranger Things 4, but Stranger Things 4 filmed over almost 2 years, stop and start in different locations. A lot of it was practical as well, yes. And they still had to struggle, and their budget was more than any other show coming out until probably the Lord of the Rings of Power show. So that season 4 was a lot, and even they were working to the last minute. The visual editors and the graphics editors for part 2 of season 4 to the last minute. So we're still facing the consequences. And Andor was shot relatively later. Yes, we know it had a little bit of a longer start, but it didn't start in 2020 like a lot of other things. I think, though, to get to the point of the volume, it's a great tool. It's a huge step up from CGI. It lets actors really do things, but there are limitations. I think the next evolution of the volume, bigger screens, maybe the whole thing moves instead of just the screens shifting around. Like, I think we're on the verge of a huge volume coming out, and they are making multiple volumes around the world. So that technology is only going to improve. I will say though, relying on entirely on that kind of falls into what the Star Wars prequels did with blue screens and green screens. It's great. It has an advantage, but if you're going to use them like green screen, then it starts to lose the advantages that it already has, like how you can add physical sets, how you can put in sand, dirt, mud, and everything. Complemented a lot of, if you've seen the Batman uses a lot of shots of the cityscape that's done through the volume, some action sequences too, but it's not the entire thing. A lot of it is very practical, and I think because of how well the cinematographers on Mando have used volume, we have this expectation that it works for everything, and that's not true. Shaky cam can work really well, but if it's used repeatedly, like we said in Kenobi, it makes some things kind of feel very small. Limitations to like a lot of fast, rapid movement we've seen in the Book of Boba Fett with the Vespa speed gig. So as it is right now, maybe pull back on the volume. But if we're going to get a show that's going to pull back entirely from the volume and look this good on Disney Plus, that's shocking. And the fact that they're only doing 2 seasons makes a lot more sense now. AK-47. I mean, yeah, we've seen this character a couple of times here and there. I think we've seen her in the previous teaser. I'm curious to see if this is just like the first episodes, first couple, and then we move on from this character, or if she's part of some other. She's got like pretty striking features, in my opinion. Yeah, see, this Star Destroyer looks very fake. I know people complain about Kenobi's visuals, but I don't think I saw anything as fake as the Star Destroyer, which could explain part of the delay. I think a bigger reason they're delaying the show is primarily because, well, hey, their biggest audience that they're fighting for people of all ages to enjoy as a family, that's going to be dominated by Lord of the Rings at that same time. So maybe hold off. And, you can take this extra time to fix up these small details. But everything else looks great. This was the only shot that was concerning to me. And it's clear that they're relying heavily on practical, and it looks amazing. But when they do have to come into CGI and stuff like this, I don't know. I'd rather prefer miniature here, especially with how close it is to the ground, where you can see a lot of details. But this is definitely the ugliest shot I've seen out of everything released from Andor. Yeah, this one almost reminds me of like the Kessel Mines. I don't think it is though. It looks a little big for it. There are details that I can't really pull out in the distance. Looks pretty abandoned. I'm not really sure what this is. Maybe like a mining hatch. It's the same kid. Yeah, not sure. We've seen this guy, but I think this whole aesthetic of these white suited Imperial Security Bureau officers is going to be really big, kind of like ComSec, and just how a lot of the Empire is controlling people's technology, what they're using, actively, like where their ship locations are. We've seen in Bad Batch, everyone's got to have a chain code. So maybe we get to delve a little bit more deeper into this and what it's like just 5 years before New Hope. I'm really interested for this side of the story. I'm just not sure how big it's going to be. So, these guys already looks like the kid. We're cutting back to him. So I want to say this is Cassian as a kid, but I don't think it really is because this tech looks very A New Hope Imperial. Like even this little camera right here in not camera screen in the center, it looks very much like some basic digital animation that they did for A New Hope when they showed off like the Death Star. So I want to say it's maybe some other character that's like maybe our first steps into this world that Andor is creating of the early rebellion. I like the line that if you fake it till you make it, they won't notice. The Imperials won't notice, which has been a lot of the mottos that I feel Luke and all these other characters who wear stormtrooper armor and stormtrooper gear and trench coats like Kenobi kind of do. They just fake it as long as they can, and usually it works out because arrogance of the Imperials, and it's a huge galaxy. You're not going to pay attention to everything. Um, yeah, excited for Stellan Skarsgård. Um, like Cassian's decor, he looks ruffled, a little younger, yeah, but I think he's just has impeccable fashion. Maybe he pulls it a little bit here from Stellan's character. Stellan's character was already like interesting to me. Like maybe he's like some sort of rebel general or like someone funding and stepping more into that role as like a private militia guy. But he seems like he's got a huge role, and for an actor of his caliber, makes sense. But was not expecting that. Yes, I'm just gonna play this part. I'm so happy seeing this.
Empire is choking us so slowly.
Yeah, this transition from these clone troopers who are stripped of their color, by the way. So that's going to show that maybe this is Bad Batch era flashbacks, and then straight into Death Troopers. I've never seen such connection continuity. We've seen the clone troopers in the Order 66 flashback in the Kenobi show, um, but they were slightly off from the extremely CGI look of what we saw in Revenge of the Sith. But from some angles, they were perfect. But without the like color and the linings, it's impeccable. The armor looks amazing. We already saw a bit of a clip in the teaser of like maybe a young casting going towards them. But yeah, it looks so great. And then it's just this transition to Death Troopers. Like it feels now that we have practical clones, heaven sent. Like I'm so happy seeing them. Uh, she's also a character that looks like she's Imperial Security Bureau. Maybe she's connected to that guy before. She seems to be a bit more of like a second in command, kind of trying to prove her point, prove her worth. I think the speculation for a lot of people is that this is Cassian's sister. I haven't checked the casting, so would not be too far of a stretch. Be cool to see what the Andor family sort of becomes, or if the Andor family becomes these sacrificial lambs from being separatists and then grudgingly rebellion supporters, and then Cassian sacrifice, and maybe his sister continues into the Republic, not Republic, the New Republic, maybe, or dies in the rebellion era. Who knows? It'll be really interesting to see. Or she dies here, and that could spur him even more to action. Though I don't really like fridging characters like that. These landers, they remind me of like almost like Tron landers, but I'm not really sure. It feels like they're very skeletal, so I don't know. There's like a ramp. They don't look to be in the best condition. I think they're just scrap landers, but they look cool. Cassian's there. You already see him walk. His drip is impeccable. Stellan's role, he's, I mean, he's like saying, you got to be part of something real. This is your chance. Um, I'm very curious. And then, God, okay, this ship looks fantastic. Obviously, Corellian make. Looks like a lot of concept art that we've seen before. Um, Looks amazing, though. So maybe he's a Corellian senator or something. It would explain a little bit more of possibly like how Corelli starts becoming, or maybe Kuat or some other place that has a lot more of this industrial looking design for their ships. Um, I don't think you have the ship and are necessarily just some guy from Naboo or something. I think this is part of his ruggedness as a character. Even if he is living a double life, it's too nice of a ship to just be a junker ship. Like this is very specialized. So I'm very curious how it'll connect to Stellan Skarsgård's character's background and all that. Putting up the hood, I love seeing fields of food and stuff in anything in fantasy and Star Wars. It's science fiction. Feels like people just make these huge planets that are just one environment. And like, yeah, I guess that could make sense here and there, but not everywhere. You still need to get food. Of course, this was always be expected. I mean, we got two tubes over there. Stellan looks like he's directly talking to Saw, right? Saw's got a scar that we see a little bit more in the Bad Batch, though it looked lighter there. So I'm wondering if this, this man's on so many drugs and all these different things, like just to keep his body alive. So maybe the scar is like some like poison cut that will continue to eat out like some nanobites or whatever. He looks younger. He does look younger here than he did in present day of Rogue One. Maybe not as young as he is in Fallen Order and the flashback at the very beginning of Rogue One. But I'm liking that Forrest Whitaker is just really owning up to this role. He loves it. Nice to see a little bit of the MOA trooper designs. Looks like they're going to be used more like street enforcers, like policing units. These landers look like LAATs, but downgraded. Kind of sad, but I guess once you're in the Imperial era, they go away. This guy, he was featured very prominently in the last teaser. Not so much here. His friends telling him that it's starting to ferment this rebellion, and all that. I'm very curious to see like if he's like a local militia enforcer and on this planet that Andor supposedly is on, and maybe he is a villain, maybe he's an anti-hero. I'd like to see that perspective of like the ground level people who aren't, they are subservient to the Empire, but they're not necessarily aware of everything the Empire does because they're not directly part of it. I'd like to see that angle. I don't know who this guy is, honestly, but looks like some underground stuff. The guy that we talked about. I'm loving the sideburns that they got here. Very 70s. Landing there. Oh, Coruscant looks so good. It really does. That we see. I don't know. This feels like an industrial world that someone is landing on. So maybe this is a Cassian Andor world that he's on for this first season. I'm really liking this cleanliness, like this aesthetic of like sterility and all that. I'm very curious to like what her role is here, like in this environment out, and why she like leaves it to interact with Andor presumably and all that. Looks like she got the landscape of the Andor planet, so maybe she's taking more of like an active role, kind of like how Thrawn does in Rebels at times. Looks like sibling bonds right here. I think she could be a lover. I'm not sure though. I don't know. I feel like she they are. I feel like I heard somewhere they are sisters. Looks like she directly confronts this Imperial officer. And this is probably the most intriguing part of the trailer for me. Like, he's definitely living on Coruscant. This is like his wife or assistant or someone, probably his wife, telling him that he's slipping. And then he's all regal. Like, look at that hair. He's putting a wig on. He looks great. Like, this is a senator, I would say. Because, we're seeing Mon Mothma. She is wearing, like, the look of her clothing that is more Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes and the like. So maybe this could be a flashback within the show that's maybe a couple years after Revenge of the Sith. But I'm kind of liking the idea that he, like, plays an act like Mon Mothma does in Imperial politics, but it's even more deception. It's even more deception. It's even crazier things and everything like that. Like, the physical embodiment of being a rebel is part of his act. I really like that angle to dive into a more of an extremist route. And yeah, I mean, he's in what looks like a Corellian ship. Oh, this looks so great. It's like a snub fighter, but part freighter. And then you see the hair here. So maybe it's later, maybe it's not. I still want that wig thing to be sort of real. I love seeing these. I love seeing the guns pop out. In the back of yeah, it looks like a fighter. And then this is like the Imperial telecommunications carriers. So I'm assuming this is like how they control and snoop on everyone. I feel like we've seen a little bit of that in Rebels. Uh, Attacking bombers. We've already seen this shot, and of course, yes, like this is the coolest part. Seeing
As long as ever.
everything here look very prequel-esque, but not, and having this little Imperial logo, and we've seen at the bottom of the base where this speaker is, or it's senator or chancellor, or I guess now emperor would be, is also has this Imperial symbol.
Thinks I'm an irritation.
Yeah, I'm thinking that her storyline's gonna be very subtle, a lot more politics. And if people hate it this time around, I hope you give it a chance. The prequels might not have landed it, but they were trying. I think with an actual focus on one character doing politics before her subsequent just full on send for the rebellion will be such a good story to follow. Um, it looks like she's like playing a little bit here too. Like, she's openly revolting in some ways in some spaces. Some action sequences. When it's the beginning, don't know who this character is. Maybe she's related to Cassian as well. I'm not really sure what this tunnel is, but it looks very Coruscant Underground or something, or some service tunnel. Uh, this looks very much like Rogue One, maybe a little bit of Solo Star Wars story. A lot like Mando's season 2 with the Bill Burr episode. Um, Curious. Obviously, very Rogue One esque, coming in uniforms that look like they're stolen, and then kind of scaling down. I'm very curious what they're trying to reach. This looks like a revolt of, like, test subjects. So maybe the people in the white uniforms aren't just doing security. Maybe they're tying into the Bad Batch cloning and genetic mutations and strand cast and all that stuff. So maybe, or maybe they're just prisoners, just wearing all white. Who knows? But they're not wearing any shoes, which gives me pause. So I don't know how many storylines are going to happen, but I can see why there's 12 episodes now. Some random alien that looks interesting. He's got 4 arms. Looks like he's, I don't know. He's injecting someone who's sick, maybe a doctor of some sorts. A lot more like hand-to-hand martial fighting here than I expected. But I guess it would make sense that maybe some communities that just don't have any weapons are just attacked by Star Destroyers. And then this final last sequence gives me a lot of Solo Kessel run sequence mixed in with the visuals of Rogue One. Looks great. But yeah, that's my breakdown of every little thing that we've seen here in the Andor trailer. Let me know if you guys have seen something that I missed. If you guys enjoyed this trailer as much as Liam and I, let me know if you guys enjoyed this trailer as much as Liam and I did. Very excited for Cassian Andor and for the future of Disney Plus Star Wars shows. This feels like this could be a huge change of pace, fresh breath of air. Yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We post videos several days a week. We've been posting a lot of shorts recently for Light and Magic, the new documentary series on Disney Plus about the beginning days of ILM and their transition from making these special effects into computer animation and whatnot. Great series. I'm dropping reacts every day, so if you guys enjoy them, I'll make a full review next week. Make sure to check out our comics video as well that dropped last week, and make sure to check out every other video on our channel that you enjoyed and let us know what you think about them or if you want to see anything different. You'll be able to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Anchor, as well as many different podcast platforms. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow for our Padawan review.